Welcome to Anatomy and Physiology on Demand. This is a lab video, and specifically we're going to be talking about bony landmarks of the coxal bone. So as you already learned previously, the coxal bone is made of three different bones: the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis, or the pubic bone. So we're going to start first with the ilium. So the ilium is this broad fan-shaped part of it, and when you're putting your hands on your hips, you're putting your hands on this part of the ilium right up here at the superior edge. And that's the first bony landmark we're going to talk about. So there's the ilium. Again, everything that's green is the ilium. And so this most superior part of the ilium is called the iliac crest. When you look at the two ends of the iliac crest, you can see like we have some bumps, two bumps on both sides of it. So what I want you to do is find that half heart landmark that we talked about last time right here, and to remember that that is the landmark for being posterior. And so that would make this end the posterior end of the iliac crest, and over here it would be the anterior end. So here's the half heart landmark again. This would be the posterior part of the iliac crest, and we're going to come all the way over to the other end, to the anterior end. And there is a name for this little area right there, the most anterior part of the iliac crest, right here where it's highlighted. So right here on this particular bone, that would be called the anterior superior iliac spine. Okay, so what is important is to leave those words as is. Do not change the order of those four words. They are as, anterior, superior, iliac spine is. So leave it as is, and you'll do fine. Another landmark on the ilium is that half of a heart divot. And that is called the greater sciatic notch, because there is a structure known as the sciatic nerve that is going to go through this area. And with that, we're done with the ilium. The next place we're going to go to is the pubis. So let's put that greater sciatic notch posteriorly. And now we are going to find the most anterior part, the part I'm holding onto right now. That is the pubis, also known as the pubic bone. So that's that part right there. And the good news is there's no landmarks of the pubis for us to learn. So we're done with the pubis, we're done with all of this, which is the ilium, and now we have what was left between the two bones, and that is the ischium. And the ischium does have a couple of bony landmarks for us to learn. For the first one, we need to go back and find that half heart greater sciatic notch. So the part I'm covering right now was ilium, but if you notice that the most inferior part of that is not part of the ilium. So this little pointy part right down here at the end, the part that is highlighted in brown in the picture, that is known as the ischial spine. It's of the ischium. It's not an ischial spine of the ilium. Greater sciatic notch of the ilium, ischial spine of the ischium. For the next landmark, let's go back again to that anterior view. And a lot of students at first glance think this is how it sits in your body, where this is flat and what you're sitting on. But in reality, it sits like this in your body. So this thick bony part, that's the part you are sitting on. That's why like your behind starts hurting when you're sitting on hard chairs for multiple hours like you do in long lab lecture classes. So this bony landmark right down here, this area of the ischium, is known as the ischial tuberosity. And that's it for the ischium. However, there are a couple of bony landmarks of the coxal bone which involve two or three of the specific bones. So they won't be of the ilium, of the ischium, or of the pubis. They would be of the coxal bone. And the first one of these is this big, huge, round, cup-like structure, which is known as the acetabulum. that translates into vinegar cup. And so what used to happen is they would take this part, this acetabulum, like on a horse or on a cow or something, and they'd break off that part of the bone, and that's where like they would drink wine from, because wine is basically vinegar. Well, vinegar is wine that's gone bad. Okay. So this is the acetabulum of the coxal bone. From the picture, you can see it is actually made from all three of the individual bones that fuse together to form the coccyx. And the second landmark that has multiple bones is this hole. So what was the word for a hole in the bone? That's right. It was a foramen. Okay. And so this foramen is called the obturator foramen because there is an obturator nerve that is going to go through the obturator foramen. Now, when you look at these, this one is a left. You can tell it because if I would hold it like this, the pubis is going towards the midline, as opposed to this one where the pubis goes to the midline. If we put the two coxal bones together, they do not form a complete circle. You have part of your vertebral column that goes behind, and that is missing. But if you put them together, you can kind of see, like, you know, make a funky looking mask in there. But in reality, the two bones actually do not touch each other. There is an extra piece of cartilage, a piece of fibrocartilage between the two. So when you're looking at pictures of the skeleton, you'll always see something drawn in there. And this structure that's between the right and the left pubic bones is called the pubic symphysis. And we'll learn a lot more about the pubic symphysis in lecture later on. The next thing that has to do with the entire coxal bone is something called the pubic arch. And so when you put the two together, we are looking at the angle, like the angle that my nose is going through right now. So this part, this angle that's made between two of them, it's highlighted there in blue. And basically what we do is we look at it, kind of turn it, and you decide, is it 90 degrees or is it bigger than 90 degrees? Typically 110 degrees. And this is the easiest, fastest way for help determining if this pelvis belongs to a female or a male. So here's an example of both of them on the same slide. If we compare the upper left one, I think you can clearly see that the subpubic angle is a lot narrower than the wide subpubic angle on the bottom right. So the upper left one, a baby never could come out of that one. So that's definitely a male pelvis, whereas on the bottom right, that is a female pelvis. Now there's about a half a dozen different things we can look at, but for us, for this class, we're just gonna look at that subpubic angle. Okay. So here is another example of different male and female pelvis models, and I have marked them so that you clearly can see the difference in the two. So when you're looking at pictures in your textbook or elsewhere, stop and look and practice. Do I think this is male? Do I think this is female? Okay. Now the final structure is something called the pelvic brim. So this is a picture looking at the entire pelvis from above. You can see that we have vertebral column here posteriorly. And what has happened is on this pelvis, we have made a line that crosses one coxal bone, goes across the top of the symphysis pubis, goes to the next coxal bone, and then goes across a landmark on the sacrum, and we make a whole circle here. And this circle is known as the pelvic brim. If you were to put a piece of plastic across here, if you were up at the level of the pelvic brim, if you were above it, you're in the abdomen. If you're below it, you're in the pelvis. So let me show you where that is on an actual coxal bone. So it's starting here, and it's going to go here. So if you notice, it's nowhere close to the height of the top of the ilium. It's way down here. So everything up here, which is like in your hip zone, that's still abdomen. You have to go way down into this area to be considered down in the pelvis. So this is like a really important structure. Like for instance, when ladies are pregnant in their 9th month of pregnancy and they go and the doctor determines if the baby's head is now below the pelvic brim, we say, well, the baby has dropped and you're ready to start labor at any time. If the baby is still floating above, there is no way it can come out down below. Okay. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop this one. So it's short and sweet, and it's only this one bone. And then be sure to watch the next one, which is going to be on all the bones of the lower extremity. Thank you for all your hard work, and I'll see you again soon.